I gambled every single day. Okay. I didn't need the liquor store to be open to go get my fix.
Mm.
I need to have to get in touch with my drug dealer so I could get my fix. You can pop open a computer and gamble anywhere in the world. So I don't need a bookie to be available or a game to be on. And so I found ways to gamble all the time. When I was at work, I gambled every day with my best friend who I worked with. We played credit card roulette every time we went out to dinner. We play liar's poker on a flight to Vegas before we even get there.
All right, Michael, welcome to the show, brother. How's it going?
It's going great. Thank you, my man.
Hey, man, pleasure to have you here. I know we just talked off air. You're tuning in from beautiful Venice Beach, California. What's the weather like there today?
Oh, it's a balmy 80 degrees.
Ah, man, feels bad, right? It's so beautiful. It's
Yeah,
beautiful
balmy in
outside.
the sense that the sun is shining bright.
Yeah, man. I like Venice. A very interesting place.
Yeah.
I've been there once before, so
Great.
I definitely I want to get back out to the West Coast as soon as I can, man. So what brought you out there to Venice, man?
The ocean,
Mm.
the ocean and the weather. I lived in the last 12 years prior to this. I spent in Salt Lake City, Utah. That's where I founded my company, and I was there for 12 years. So I grew up in Jersey. Yeah, Jersey.
Jersey, get you some Taylor ham.
Yeah, man, I was fist pumping since I was a newborn.
Oh
And
man.
I spent the majority of my life on the East Coast, and then I went to college, University of Maryland, and then worked in New York City for about 10 years, and then followed a business opportunity in Utah, which turned into a business. I was there 12 years. So all that time, it was cold. Like,
Mm.
obviously you have the four, I should say it's 4 seasons, right? In both of those places. And I was kind of over the cold at that point. And I'm like, you know what? After spending time in Bali and going on different trips overseas in such beautiful weather, I'm like, I want this every day. So I'm going to Cal.
Mm.
Oh, I grew up and said, I will never go to California. They're lazy, they're not motivated, all these things that, for whatever reason, were put into my brain. Um, just like a lot of things in life, I'm doing all the things now that I said I would
Mm. Interesting. Interesting. Well,
never.
Michael, it's a pleasure to have you here today, man. I'm really excited to share your story with the listeners. So for the people that aren't familiar with you and your work, would you mind to just give us a brief overview on what you're focused on and what you've built?
Sure. I mean, right now I am an executive coach and I work with entrepreneurs and businesses in the $1 to $5 million range and help them double their profits. I also work one-on-one with CEOs or business leaders who are dealing with kind of isolation challenges in their life. So I'm also involved, I also helped found a nonprofit called Activated.life, and we're focused on mental health. And right now we're doing a lot of work with the nurses, doctors, first responders, medical staff, and everything back in New York and New Jersey. And we've provided over 2,000 fresh meals to them while they're working on shift, as well as a bunch of PPE equipment.
Mm.
And been focusing our efforts, obviously, on the pandemic at this time.
That's
So,
awesome.
yeah, so I've been doing. So those are the things that I occupy my time with now. And I do a bunch of other things, but those are the two main ones.
So where does that come from? The drive to run a nonprofit, focus on mental health. Where does that come from? Like an earlier time in your life where you were going through some struggles yourself, or?
I think a lot of it comes from my past in addiction. I was introduced to gambling when I was 11 years old by Uncle Joel. Thanks, Uncle. Give him a shout out at a Thanksgiving dinner. And I won the first bet I ever made on a football game with him. And that started a 20-year addiction, which led to many cross addictions, including cocaine, marijuana, Adderall, GHB, and the like. So I suffered myself. When you're in addiction, you're dealing with mental health issues. They're hand in hand. And so I had I worked through a lot of problems myself. And then I also did a lot of bad shit in my life. I was dealing drugs. I was a bookie in college. I was, behaving like an unruly human. And so I feel like part of why I give so much is in part to make up for all the bad I was doing.
Interesting. Wow. So gambling addiction, drugs, running down the wrong path. I'm sure if you didn't recover from that, things probably would have gotten even worse. So it's, my hat off to you. It's definitely it's a blessing that you were able to recover. What did that look like? Did you one day look in the mirror and said, I got to change my life. I gotta turn this around? Or did you have like a rock bottom moment? Like, what did that look like for you?
Yeah, ironically, I had a different experience than most do. My brother and I were driving to Thanksgiving. A lot of stories surrounding Thanksgiving in my life. He wouldn't allow me to listen to sports radio, which I always listened to, and especially when I was gambling, because I needed the latest updates on injuries, the latest updates on players, on the lines, on the spreads. And he wouldn't let me listen to it. We got in an argument, and he told me he was going to GA. And I said, well, what the hell are you going to GA now with those losers for? What's wrong with you? And he's like, look, I got a gambling problem. And me and him would gamble all the time. And so I would gamble with all my friends. But I listened to radio and music for that 3 hours. And it was actually 3.5, whatever it was actually so soothing that. Like, I remember my mind was so quiet, right? It wasn't in this state of trying to figure out, like, the lines and the games and all this shit. So when we got there, I said to myself, I want to know what this GA did to my brother. I'm going to go to a meeting. At home, I went to a meeting, and it was strictly out of curiosity more than anything. And then when I walked in the meeting, I looked around, Fairlawn, New Jersey. When I walked in the meeting, I looked around, and I'm like, look at these degenerate losers. Like, I'm making 6 figures. I work in New York City. I got a suit on, and I'm sitting next to a mailman, a police officer, a school teacher, a bus driver. And by the end of that meeting, though, after 2 hours, I realized I had more in common with all of those people than I did with some of my best friends. I worked the program and got a sponsor, and I never gambled again.
Wow. Holy smokes. How long did the program take to actually, stop you from gambling?
Well, I never gambled again after walking in there. However, I didn't truly start working the program or really believing it. Besides abstaining from gambling, I made that commitment. I didn't believe any of the other shit they were talking about. I thought it was kind of BS. So it took me about 1.5 to 2 years to start working the program. I wasn't gambling, but I wasn't improving myself. But then I started working the program, and that entailed working the steps. And that entailed really doing some deep dive internally.
It's a really intriguing topic, and I want to focus on this here for a little bit because, the world has so many gamblers, right? That, I mean, you can't drive down the freeway without seeing a billboard for the casino. Or Now everything's online. I mean, you got sports bookies. I mean, it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And, you know, a lot of people do it and they don't even realize, you know, hey, this might be turning into a problem because they're losing, right? And then they start chasing the losses. So, like, for you, how did you know, like, did you lose, like, a huge amount? Like, how did you know, like, this is not good for me anymore? Like, I can't keep doing this.
I didn't think that way. However, I knew I gambled every single day. Okay. I didn't need the liquor store to be open to go get my fix. I need to have to get in touch with my drug dealer so I could get my fix. You can pop open a computer and gamble anywhere in the world. So I don't need a bookie to be available or a game to be on. And so I found ways to gamble all the time. When I was at work, I gambled every day with my best friend who I worked with. We played credit card roulette every time we went out to dinner. We played liar's poker on a flight to Vegas before we even get there. I mean, I lost $1,500 to my best friend on a flight to Vegas for a 4-day weekend. Wow. That was supposed to be my money for the trip.
Yeah.
So I knew I was out of control. I just didn't want to face it. And I didn't know about Gamblers Anonymous at the time. And when my brother told me he was going, I was just kind of like interested in checking it out.
Right.
Like I said, by the end of that meeting, I realized how much I had and the commonality between me and everybody. I'm like, okay, I need this because these inner demons that all these people are talking about, they exist within myself.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what would you say was the, and this is just out of curiosity, but the single biggest win you ever had and the single biggest loss you ever had?
Oh, I mean, I was a compulsive loser. Like, I didn't really win that much. I mean, probably 5G at a blackjack table.
Yeah, that's got to sting, right?
No, that's what I won. That's my biggest
Oh, that's
win.
what you won. I thought, okay.
My biggest win.
5Gs.
That was my biggest loss. I would, oh my God, that'd be the best day in the world.
Well, I mean, not in one sitting. 5Gs in one sitting. That's a pretty tough loss at one time.
Yeah, but if you look at the consistency of how much I lost over the period, I mean, hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Wow.
Sure. I mean, I gambled on sports a lot, right? And, you know, it's a little bit different when you're like calling somebody up and putting a bet in with a bookie than it is when you're actually taking cash out of your pocket and giving it to the Vegas person who prints you out a ticket. So I would say 5,000 is the most I ever won. The most I ever lost, though, I mean, there were weeks where I lost, 20 G.
Wow. You know, I've had my fair share of Vegas trips, and the feeling that comes over some of us, I don't know if everybody feels this way, but for me, and I'm sure you, when you lose, the feeling of needing to go and get more money to get it back is so, it's like heroin. It's like an unstoppable urge that you cannot fight. You just lose fucking control. You just lose control, and you just keep going and going and going. And it's
what addiction
fucked
is.
up. Yeah, it's fucked. It's fucked up, man. But you know, it's good to see, and I wanna obviously, you know, go into other areas of your life, but it's good to see that there's a lot of initiatives being taken with like Gamble Responsibly, and like there's a lot of different, especially with the online casinos, you can put restrictions and limits and stuff like that because they know, hey, the bigger this gets, the bigger more of a problem it's going to create. What are your thoughts on all of that stuff? Like the gambling responsibly and stuff like that they have online.
I mean, it's bullshit. You know, it's political bullshit.
Really?
But, you know, look, all these industries support each other. You know, if you ever looked at just to deviate for a second, if you ever looked at the milk and the dairy industry and the meat industry, and like, so you have the Heart Association supports the meat industry, and then the meat industry supports the Heart Association, and meat actually is not good for your heart, right?
Yeah.
You know, so when they put these and so the whole thing, gamble responsibly. Uh, it's just like milk. What was the milk campaign years ago?
Milk is good for your bones.
Body good.
Yeah.
Milk does a body good, but that's bullshit. Milk is not good for you.
Marketing campaigns.
Yeah. So that's what I think about it. But
or the one, diamonds are forever, right? That's the biggest sham in modern history.
Which one? Diamonds.
Diamonds are forever.
Yeah.
Diamonds are one of the most common
not unless
gems on the planet.
Not unless you marry the right woman. Otherwise, I'm gonna be gone for you.
Oh man. So Michael, so you recovered, right? You went through the program, you trusted the process, and you got yourself better, which is amazing. But how did you end up becoming a business coach to people doing 1 to 5 million? Authoring a book, of course, and all the other big things that you've been doing. Like, what did that transition look like for you?
So, all throughout my life, I grew up the son of an entrepreneur, first off. So I learned what hard work was from an early age. My father believed you're the first one in and you're the last one out, and that's how you become successful in business. So I always busted my ass, regardless of all those other activities that I was discussing, the gambling, the drugs, the coke, all that stuff. Like, I was working very hard, and I was a great salesperson. So I went door to door in college, selling home improvements in southeast Baltimore and DC. And when I got out of college, I started working in staffing business in New York City. And then I followed a business opportunity out to Salt Lake City, Utah. And I ended up building a $5.5 million business with my ex-business partner. I bought her out about 5.5 years in. And then we quickly got into a legal battle that lasted 6 years. Me $1 million in legal fees. Not even just in legal fees. So, I was finally able to get to a place to settle that, which was settling for $350K, which is what the dispute was about 6 years earlier. I settled for the same amount 6 years later, but had some valuable lessons in $1 million bill from the lawyers to boot. I think after all that, I at that point, I sold my company to pay off all the bills, and I learned some really, really valuable lessons and just started helping some of my entrepreneur friends out. And then it just made sense to transition into coaching because I know how to build a $5.5 million business.
What was the business?
Why I focus on that area.
What was the $5.5 million business? Like, what was the service or product?
So I had a staffing and recruiting company focused on in the technology sector. And we worked with a lot of e-commerce companies and financial services companies. So companies like Overstock.com and Amazon and Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley and, then I'll throw a bunch of tech companies in there as well. We would recruit for them software engineers and database guys and POs and everything from help desk to CTO, basically.
And the company made money by getting those companies the right talent? Like, the companies would pay you?
Placement fee. You get about 20 to 25% of the first year's annual salary for anybody you place in a full-time job.
No shit.
For $100K, then you usually get a $20,000 to $25,000 fee. You have to provide them a 90-day guarantee, and that's it. So that's how we made our money. You also can place them on an hourly basis, and then you have a markup. And let's say you're paying the person $50 an hour, and you're billing the client $80 an hour. So then you have that $30 markup, and you make $30 every hour they work.
Okay, so Google puts out a post that they're looking for a software engineer. You have somebody on your team that's constantly looking for new job postings, I guess? And then you just go and find the talent that fit those positions, or?
Yeah, there's kind of like two, in my business at least, there were two sides of the business. Like sales would just go out and bring those Googles in, okay, and then bring the positions in, and then I had recruiting. And the sales would hand off the open positions to the recruiters, and they would just search for candidates.
Wow. And even in 2020, are a lot of these huge tech companies still going through recruiting and staffing agencies?
Oh yeah, it's like a lifeline of their business. They
Wow.
would, they always would allocate probably 30% of their spend um, on hiring through agencies.
Wow. So $5.5 million. That's definitely a huge accomplishment. What was it like when you started generating that kind of revenue? Like your first million, what was that? What was that feeling like for you?
It was great. It was like gambling. It was like doing drugs. It was that high. Every time I closed a big sale, it was a high. And of course, then I opened a bar. I mean, because what else are you going to do? And I got involved in the bar industry. I mean, I wasn't gambling at the time, but I was still involved with Adderall, GHB. I was still partying. Um, so, so it was a mix of working hard, work hard, play hard.
Right.
That from the East Coast to Utah. So I became like this, I don't know, semi big fish in this little pond, you know,
Mm.
and it was just exhilarating. I just wanted more sales, more sales, more sales. And that's what, that's the feeling internally I would get. And then we would get some awards and acknowledgments. And who doesn't like that?
Exactly.
Who doesn't like being the big man on campus?
Of course. So it was
So,
like the
so
new adrenaline rush for you was to make more sales and grow the business even bigger.
yeah, I was always chasing the high, which is ironically the name of my book. But I was always chasing the high, and money and closing a deal gave me a high, just like doing partying, doing coke, gambling. It
Now,
gave me that.
I'm curious, Michael. So making money and closing big sales in your business, did that give you the same high as being at the casino or betting on
No,
sports?
no, but
Even if it was more money.
it was different, but it definitely gave me a high.
Mm.
The adrenaline would pump through my veins the way I did a line of cocaine.
Wow. That's definitely better to be running the business and getting the adrenaline from that versus doing, cocaine. Man, wow. So, what was the organization like? Like, did you have company culture and like weekly staff meetings? Like, what did that whole operation look like?
Yeah, I had offices in Salt Lake City, Utah, in Nasik, India. We had a big office in India. That was our office, our employees. We trained them, and then office in New York and Idaho. So we had three different divisions. We had 40 people total, and we'd have stand-up meetings in the morning. We'd have, Monday morning meetings with the whole staff, and then we'd have collaboration slash training sessions like once every 2 weeks with everybody. Usually, we'd have different staff members train in different areas of expertise.
Right.
And yeah, we would have culture. We would build culture. We would go volunteer. I would take at least the office I worked out of in Utah. I would take the team out to volunteer, feed the homeless, uh, you know, clean up the environment, whatever it might be. I'm big into volunteering. I believe that builds company culture itself. When
Mm.
you go out with your employees and spend time outside of work, talking about other things and doing something good, you build company culture right there. And then we would I would take the company out once a month. We would have some sort of company event. There's this happy hour or whatever it might be
Mm.
to build the culture from that
And
perspective.
how many people did you have employed at like the highest number?
It was 40 corporate employees, but we had another probably 40 W-2 employees who were working at clients.
Mm. Okay. Now I'm curious. Running a company that's doing $5.5 million, 40 people for 40 corporate employees. What was the biggest challenge for you while you were running and managing that operation?
My ex-business partner.
Tell us about that.
Do I have to?
If you don't want to, you don't have to.
Oh, no, of course. I'm an open. Um, at first everything started great. We worked in New York before 9/11. and 9/11 happened. She went back to Utah. Then I landed this deal with E-Trade Financial, and it was in Utah, and that's how we formed our company off the projects we did with them. We filled 800 positions for them in less than.
Wow.
A financial service reps, Series 763, at different call centers. Excuse me. So from that, we launched the company, and for the first couple of years, we were both on the same page. Obviously, we were growing. Once we got to like the $4 or $5 million range, she wasn't showing up at work as much. She was spending more time with her kids. She'd come in for like 6-hour day. I was working like 10 to 12-hour days. So here I am working double the amount of time she is, and we're getting paid the same amount. And I'm like, look, something's got to change here. Like, either we need to renegotiate the pay structure, or you need to work more. And, you need to put the time in I'm putting. And she wasn't having any of that. And that's what led to, we had offices right next to each other. We weren't even speaking for like months in the same office. We wouldn't speak to each other. It was poisonous to company culture when that's going on.
Sure.
So that's what ended up leading to me buying her out. One of us had to go because we both couldn't coexist. And at that time, we were my ego led everything for me. I was very arrogant. I felt like I'm landing all these clients. We're successful because of me. And in fairness, that's partially true, but the other part of it is that, no, without her, I wouldn't have been successful. She built a great internal operation, and we made a good team, but personally, we weren't mature enough to deal with our challenges in a respectful manner, really, to the business, respectful to the business and what we had grown in the employees we had. We were mature, and we made a lot of emotional decisions.
Now, when you decided to go your separate ways and you bought her out of the business, how did that affect your team, the company morale? When a company goes through a change like that, I'm sure, it's like the talk of the office. Like, what was that like?
Well, the biggest challenge was in India, because she had kind of built the India office. I worked with these guys every day, but I never went to India before. She had gone several times. So they had loyalty to her. And then I found out after the fact she was having an affair with the director in my India office. So I inherited this director who she's having an affair with. Me and her hate each other. I just paid her $1 million, and he's not going to be loyal to me. So as soon as I found this out, I found out like I was kind of screwed. And the lawsuit started 6 months after that. So it was a very stressful time for me, and I started really resenting the business and resented her and resented this guy. And in our India office, which produced $1 million a year, which is huge for an office in India because expenses are low, went down to like 50, 75 grand after that first year, from $1 million to 75 grand.
Wow.
Guys checked out, and she ended up taking 9 of these people and started a new company herself. 9 of my.
So there was no sort of like non-compete order.
No, there was. There was. That's what the lawsuit was all about.
Ah, okay.
But I felt she violated it, and that's why we went to court.
Right. Wow. So you had to pay $1 million in legal fees and go through probably different mediation meetings and depositions and court hearings and all that crap. Lawsuits suck, man. I've been in one lawsuit my entire life, and it was miserable.
They blow. It was 6 years. We finally went to trial. I was on the stand 5 separate times. The trial lasted 6 days. And the juror, it was all over $350K that supposedly I owed her, right? I'd stopped paying her when I found out the affair, and she took these people from me.
Right.
I had already paid her $1 million, but I'd stopped with the 350. And so the jury ended up ruling that I actually owe her the 350 because I signed as a representative of the company as a CEO that I would pay it, but that she had caused 260K in damages. So the net would be 90.
Mm.
But then the judge awarded lawyer fees to her. She said she's the prevailing party, so she gets the lawyer fees. And they wanted $500,000 from me in lawyer fees.
Wow.
So that wasn't happening. I said, I am paying you $500,000. What are you, out of your mind? I had already paid $1 million to my own legal team, and they were still billing me. And so I had no money. All the money I had earned in the 20 years up to that point, I used to buy the company and then pay these legal bills.
Right. Wow.
So I was stressed out. Yeah, I was really, really stressed out.
That's definitely a tough time.
Yeah.
I can imagine. Now, how long after that settlement did you start your new venture, which is business coaching?
So I sold the company. So I sold the company and settled the lawsuit the same week. I needed the money to sell that I sold the company to pay the lawsuit off. And it happened in the same week.
No shit.
Which is amazing. Yeah. After I did that, that's when I moved to Cali. I left Utah and I moved to California, and then I wrote the book. So I was writing the book, and then the book came out, I should say.
I'm curious, just to ask you this question before you move on. How do you sell a company that has $5.5 million a year? Like, do you make a post online or call another bigger company and say, "Hey, do you guys want to buy us out?" Like, what is it? How do you even do that?
So you could do it privately through your network, or you can go through a mergers and acquisitions firm. And
okay.
Thousands.
And they just make it happen.
Yeah, especially in New York, tons of them.
Gotcha. Okay.
That was in Utah. But I hit my personal network. So Utah's a very small, close-knit community. People knew who I was and knew my business. So there were a couple local agencies who were interested. There was an agency in India who was interested, who was our only competitor where we were in India. And then my best friend from New York was also interested because he had a nurse staffing company. He still has it. He was interested in adding tech to it.
Okay.
But I did it on my own, so I didn't have to pay a broker fee because you're going to have to pay a big broker fee if you use these brokers.
Gotcha.
So I met with all of them and I vetted them out and actually ended up selling to my best friend in New York.
There you go.
Yeah.
Sounds easy enough, right? Sell it to somebody you know.
It wasn't so easy, but yeah, it got done.
Yeah. Okay, so you went to Cali, you wrote the book, right? Chasing the High is the book name.
Chasing the High. Yeah.
Chasing the High. Which, by the way, is that book on? Is it on Amazon? Is it on your store? There you go. Nice. What does that say? An entrepreneur. It's getting cut out by the background. Entrepreneur's mindset through addiction, lawsuits, and his journey to the edge. Chasing the High. Nice. So tell us about that. So what, you just pick up a pen one day and start putting stuff down on paper? You wanted to tell your story, or like what did that look like for you?
Yeah, so just to answer your first question, this is on Amazon and Audible. If you can't get enough of these two Jersey accents, you can download my book and get more.
Yeah, and we'll link that in the show notes so everybody can go grab a copy.
Cool. So, as I started telling my story, people were telling me, like, you got to write a book. You got to do this. And I was like, all right, I think I'm being called to write a book. And I'm an entrepreneur. I'm in a bunch of tribes and stuff. Well, I call tribes, communities. One of them is an entrepreneur community that I've been in for like 8 years. And they have a company in there that helps other people write their books and tell their stories. So I partnered up with them. They're called Book in a Box or Scribe Media. And I wrote Chasing the High. So basically I had started while I was still at the company and it was done at that time. And I just decided it was time for me to open up and speak my truth. Hiding for so many years about the pain, the agony, the struggles, the challenges, everything I was going through as an entrepreneur with with multiple addictions, and I don't want other young entrepreneurs to have to go through the same shit I did. And that's really why I wrote it. That you can overcome anything. You can change at any time you want. You have to make the commitment. You have to have a plan. You got to have the right mindset, and you got to be consistent. And those are the keys to changing your life.
Wow, powerful stuff. You know, hey, maybe they'll make a movie out of it one day. You never know, right? Be like the next
connections. You can hook me up.
The Wolf, like the Wolf of Wall Street. You know, you write a book, it fucking becomes a movie.
Yeah.
By the way, has anybody ever told you that you kind of sound like Al Pacino a little bit?
No, but I'll take it.
Right. If I was to close my eyes, I feel like I'm talking to Pacino.
That's amazing.
I love it.
I'm actually watching that show Hunters that Pacino's in on Amazon Prime. That is a sick show.
Yeah, Hunters. Okay, I gotta check it out. How they adapt into that New Jersey swag out there in Cali.
Everybody loves my accent. It's so funny because they love our accents.
Yeah. Wherever you go in the country.
Yeah, to me, I'm like, I don't have an accent. You have the accent.
Yeah, they ask you to start saying words like coffee, water.
Oh, I say it all the time.
Yeah.
When like, you don't sound like you're from Jersey, I'm like, you want to go get a coffee?
There you go. That's a done deal.
Like, hey, I gotta go open my drawer.
Right? There you go, man. So, so you moved out to Cali, right? You wanted better weather. You found Venice Beach. You called that your home, and you know, what did it look like from like writing the book, publishing it, to getting your first client in your coaching and consulting program?
It was basically through my entrepreneur community that knows what I've done, that knows the company I built, that knows the expertise that I have, that I was able to secure my first couple clients actually from the same group. And that's how I prefer to get my business, from people I've met in person or know, or have spoken somewhere, or they've heard me, you know, on a podcast or something like that, versus like trying to, you know, go on social media and tell everybody how great I am. You know, I hate that shit.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to do some of it, but I hate it, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah. And then I took several masterminds last year where I learned a tremendous amount about the online marketing game, and about crafting my speech, and you know, all these about winning stages, and all these great tools that I have that, if enforced, can really make some big waves and increase your presence online, but also your business online. So that's kind of how it started for me, and I enjoy it, but I also enjoy doing a lot of different things. So I made a promise to myself when I sold my business, I was never going to commit 90% of my time to one thing, because then I won't be able to do anything else. And, you know, I am an investor, angel investor, so I'm involved with several companies. You know, I consult different companies. I'm very involved in the nonprofit world. You know, I have all these different interests. So I enjoy coaching, right? And I enjoy helping others with addiction, also helping others who are struggling. So I like to kind of keep it open like that. But, you know, I am getting the itch to get back on the business side of things. I'd be lying if I didn't tell you that. So I do expect in the next year that I will have some sort of brick and mortar type business on the ground.
Now, did you end up selling the bar? I forgot to ask you that question, but what?
The bar, oh, that's a whole nother story. I had two partners, and it ended up going bankrupt, and they shut it down. They took all the money from the place. One had a gambling problem, and one had a drug problem.
Holy shit.
It was perfect irony for my life, because that's what I had dealt with the whole time. And now, little did I know, but I got in bed in a business relationship with these two guys. So I ended up getting half of my money back. I think I invested 60 G. I ended up getting 30 back, but I lost 30 grand in the investment. But I will tell you, I had the best life.
Oh man.
You can fill in the details.
Yeah, yeah, of course, man, of course. And for the video for the video watchers on YouTube, your background actually you throwing up your hands at the summit of Mount Kilimanjaro, which is obviously one of the tallest mountains in the world, right? And the tallest mountain in Africa, one of the tallest in the world. So tell us about that. How did you end up at Kilimanjaro?
Yeah, Kilimanjaro was awesome. If you ever get the chance to do it, I highly recommend it. So I did a lot of volunteering with the Leukemia Lymphoma Society. I've raised over 100,000 for them over the years and ran 4 marathons with them. It's called Team in Training. So they'll basically train you for marathons, and you get into the marathon by raising money for Leukemia Lymphoma Society. So I did that 4 times. And then, so since I was part of this group, they decided to do Kilimanjaro, and they called it a climb for a cure. So again, you would raise money, and then you would climb Mount Kilimanjaro. So I did it with Leukemia Lymphoma Society. I think there were like 13 of us or something. It was an 8-day journey. It was 6 days up and 2 days down. And it was an amazing experience of every single human emotion that you could ever feel, you feel during this journey. And, you know, it really tested me, but it empowered me also. I knew I could do it because I've done these marathons. And it's all mind over matter. It might be a physical feat, but it all starts here in your head. You know, it starts with your mindset. You have the right mindset, your body will follow. And that's what I learned.
Now, on the way up, you have somebody carrying your pack, right?
Yeah.
Somebody, and on the way down. So I mean, that must be a huge help, right? Because holy smokes.
Sure. You have an emergency pack on where you need, because they go ahead of you, so they're not with you, right? So
okay.
Pack of things like if you get caught somewhere that you could survive on for the night, and your liquids and fluids and snacks and stuff, because these guys just take off.
Okay. I envision them walking like right next to you. But they're already long. They're
setting up camp for you, so when you're there, the camp is set up.
Right. It makes sense. So 19,341 feet. Did you get altitude sickness on the way up?
I did not, because they advised us to get this altitude medication, which I did, which I took, but several other people did get altitude sickness. One of the things that they do to try to acclimate your body to the increased altitude is that you climb higher every day, and then you climb down a little bit before you camp out. So if you're climbing to 7,000 feet the first day, you're not sleeping at 7,000 feet. You're sleeping at 6,000 feet or 5,500 feet.
Right.
Climb up more, and then you climb down. So that's how they try to acclimate you. But several people, 2 or 3, got altitude sickness, puking all over the place. You know, the medication they gave us, it was interesting because it made your fingers numb where you couldn't like feel them. So that was really interesting. But yeah, thankfully I didn't get it myself.
You know, it's insane when I'm in the plane, right, and it tells you how high you are. You look 20,000 feet. You look out the window. You're like, holy shit, we're high. We're way up here. I can't imagine what it's like to be standing at a summit, just looking. Like, what's it like? Like, you're looking out. Does everything look like little ants? Like, what's it like being up there?
Well, there's not. You can't see any people except the ones that are with you.
Of course, but like just looking out at the scenery.
Yeah. Oh, it looks beautiful. But you know, you got to remember your mindset, where your mindset is, because we summited at midnight, so we summited all night long so we could catch a sunrise. But there was 6 a.m. You know, you want to like collapse, you want to puke, you want to like, and then you got to go right back down. So you savor the moment for a little bit, but you still got a lot of work to do. But you do savor the moment. I mean, I took 3 shirts off. This is just one picture. I put 3 different shirts on, 3 different brands, and took pictures up there. Yeah, it was an incredible experience, but physically also beat up because this is 6 days.
Yeah. You know, people actually die summiting Kilimanjaro? Like, did you think about that or put any thought into like I could not make it out of this at all, or
I could go outside and get in a car and die. I have a better chance of doing that.
agreed. But I mean, summiting a 20,000-foot mountain, I mean, it's the danger is a little higher.
Look at the numbers. It's not.
Statistically, of course, car accidents are more likely to happen, but
exactly
adrenaline wise, right? To the average person, climbing a 20,000-foot mountain is a lot scarier than driving down the freeway.
I agree with you. Yeah, but I mean, adrenaline wise, yeah. I mean, it was great. I mean, it was that like chasing the high, right?
Yeah.
Always chasing something. So it fed that adrenaline rush. That I'm an adrenaline junkie, so I love that stuff. So I'll do just about anything.
What else? What else have you done, adventure wise? That would be on like the same category as like Kilimanjaro.
Nothing probably in the same category. I mean, I ran the marathons. I ran 4 and 5 years. You know, you go skydiving. You do those things to fill your, you know, that adrenaline.
You've been skydiving before?
Skydiving, scuba diving is one of the most experiences you could ever imagine. Scuba diving. I mean, there is a world underneath the water that we don't even realize exists. It is something.
You're not afraid of sharks?
No, I don't. I mean, am I afraid? Yeah, I'm probably afraid of sharks, but I don't really think that way. I mean, I don't think what I'm afraid of. I think about the amazing experience and expandedness it's going to have, what it's going to open up for me, right? I want to experience life. That is life. Life contracting and being afraid. It's expanding and exploring and tapping into our curiosity. That, for me, over the years, I've learned is the key to continuing to live a fulfilled life.
Sounds like you're constantly pushing the limits and doing things that just make you feel fulfilled in your life. And that's super admirable because a lot of people right now, they want to do things in their life like go skydiving, get on a roller coaster, go scuba diving, climb a mountain, but they're afraid. And they just put it off and they never do it until it's too late and now they can't do it. So what advice would you give that person that's been wanting to do something like we're talking about?
The advice I would give is when you look at and stare fear down, on the other side of fear is growth. And just remember that. On the other side of anxiety is growth. On the other side of nervousness is growth. Powerful. So I know that I will be better for it on the other side. And this could pertain to a lot of things, like, let's say, speaking. A lot of people are afraid of public speaking, right?
Absolutely.
I get nervous if I go on a stage in front of 200 people. I get nervous as shit. But I know on the other side of that, it's going to make me better. Even if I fuck up. Because I'll learn something from it. Because we're resilient human beings. But we got to do the work. You got to work on yourself or nothing will change. And it starts with, you know, there's a variety of different things everybody can do. You know, meditation. I mean, like a lot of these things back east are taboo. Like everyone's like, yeah, forget about that bullshit. Meditation. You know, and astrology shit and flow. Like I studied flow, which is the process of making decisions by following your intuition, not with your conscious mindset, but with that intuitive guide, that gut, your heart. Even if it doesn't consciously make sense, trusting that intuition. And every time I've done that and trusted that intuition, it's led me to a fulfilled place. But when I would consciously make decisions, I would question my decisions. I would rethink my decisions. I would overthink my decisions. And I would just beat myself up all the time. And then I would allow people to convince me to do things I didn't even want to do. So by being able to shift that, and I went through a process of clearing out all these limiting beliefs that you just mentioned earlier. through some processes that I think are weird as fuck, but I did them anyway. Called tapping and EMDR, where it's rapid eye movement and you're tapping on different parts of your body. It's weird as shit, but it worked for me because I released my ego that was tied to it, that was tied to the judgment. I released it and I just experienced. I tapped into the curiosity and I experienced. And going through that allowed me to actually shift my mindset, shift my behaviors, and shift my action.
I love it, man. Powerful, powerful stuff right there, brother. So what, Michael, what are your days like in Venice, now? I mean, obviously we're still in this pandemic situation at the time of recording this, but what kind of things, like what's the average day like for you over there?
So, I put my hours in, whatever I'm working on at the time. I mean, I'll start in the beginning. I wake up every morning, get a few things accomplished early in the morning so you get some momentum. The teeth, you make the bed. You just make the damn bed. Stop being so fucking lazy, people. Okay? You make the bed. I never used to make my bed. That's why I'm talking to myself, by the way.
Make the fucking bed. To all the listeners out there.
If you don't take one thing from this, except if you only take one thing, make the fucking bed. So I make the bed. I then walk 25 minutes to get my coffee. There it is. And I walk back, and now I've gotten, because the gyms are closed, everything's closed, So I got some exercise in. So, all right. So I brushed my teeth. I made my bed. I got some exercise in, and I got my coffee. And I'm just about, and I read 10 to 15 pages of a personal development book. And all of a sudden, I got 4 things accomplished in the morning. They're small things, but then they allow me to get ready to start working on something bigger, get something bigger accomplished. But I already got momentum. We can all build these little hacks into our system to get us off to a good start every day and get us in a positive mood, positive mindset. Right? So that's how I start every day. And then I go, I do some work, and then, I take a bike. I've been riding my bike a lot lately. I used to be a runner, but I had 2 back surgeries, so I ride my bike a lot. So I've been riding in this beautiful weather out here. I go for an hour bike ride every day and come back, do some stretching, do some podcasting, talk in my community, and then we're doing some fundraisers in New York, New Jersey right now for the nurses and doctors and frontline workers through Activated.life. It's called Love Protects on GoFundMe. And we're fundraising for that. We raised about $22K so far, and we've delivered over 2,000 meals to the frontline workers in New Jersey and New York, all the hospitals there. So I spend a bunch of time promoting that. So those are kind of the things. That's how I kind of occupy my days.
That's incredible stuff, man. And it sounds like you're getting the most out of your day, right? You're squeezing and making every minute count. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, but at the same time, incorporating self-care. I feel like when I lived back east, like none of us talk, me and my boys, like we don't talk about self-care. Like dudes just don't talk about self-care. They don't, right? So like these are things we need to start doing because they put us in a better place mentally, and we're better for it as men, as business leaders, as spouses.
What do you mean by self-care?
As brothers, taking care of ourselves, whether it's delete that. Whether it's meditating, not medicating.
No medicating.
You can see my addictive past.
No Vicodin, people. All right, we're talking about meditation.
No Adderall, no Vicodin, none of that shit. No oxys. So meditating. Journaling, getting massages, physically, getting stretched out by trainers. There's so many different things that we can for ourselves to take care of ourselves. I mean, positive affirmations, you know? I mean, some people think it's weird as shit. It is kind of weird, but, you know, pumping yourself up. I listen to an affirmation podcast, like, especially before I'm doing something that I might be nervous. Like if I'm going to speak in front of people, which I do a bunch, there's an affirmation podcast, and one of the podcasts is on public speaking. Breathe, breath work. Oh my God, what breath work can do for you. But, you know, I wasn't introduced to any of this shit back east. When I was living back east, none of this stuff. Especially, I mean, I know it's more prevalent in the female world, especially back east, but, you know, I mean, none of my boys, they would laugh at me if I talked about this shit. They're like, what the hell happened to Dash?
Yeah, I mean, the Northeast is a lot more definitely hustle and bustle, you know, but I don't know any man that would refuse a massage or, you know, getting a nice hot towel shave and,
oh yeah,
you know, and maybe we don't talk about it, but I got my first pedicure a couple months ago, and man, that's a whole new world right there, brother. That's a whole new world right there.
I haven't got there yet, but
brother, you have to try the pedicure. They massage your feet.
Yeah, I don't like people touching my feet.
All right, well then you probably wouldn't like it, but you get the manicure though. They'll touch your hands.
I might do a manicure. My buddies do manicures.
Yeah, you gotta keep your hands nice. You know.
Yeah, these other things that I talked about, like breath work and meditating and, you know, flow and like these different, like even sound medicine, sound therapy. There's sound therapy. There's light therapy. This stuff is like really, really amazing. It can really recharge your body, reset your body, and make you. And again, you do work on yourself. Like even reading every day is really important. Not about business or sports. Reading a book, really, really important. I had gotten away from it for so many years.
Powerful really stuff, Michael.
You want to continue to expand. You want to continue to evolve. That's what life is.
That's it, brother. That's it. Now, Michael, I ask every guest on the question, every guest on the show the same question. I like to extend that question to you, if that's all right.
Do it.
What is the absolute best advice that you've ever received?
The best advice I've ever received is also the best advice I always give. It's don't make emotional decisions. Emotional decision making led me to some of the most challenging times in my life, both in business and with family and friends. You ever snap at somebody and then 5 minutes later you're like, oh, why did I react?
Of course.
And then you go back to the person and you're like, hey man, my bad. You shouldn't have said that. You've been there?
Sure, of course, absolutely.
And then you have that time in between. You go back to the person like, oh shit, I gotta go home. What am I gonna say to him? How do I do this? You know, and all of a sudden you just wasted all that energy. It's so draining. It even sounds tiring. I would do this to myself daily on a daily basis because I would snap at people.
Interesting.
So emotional decision making is one of the worst. It is the worst kind of decision making you could ever make. Because it's a disaster. Don't fire off that text. Take some really deep breaths. Just 3 deep breaths. Just calms you down.
I love it.
You will respond differently.
Don't make emotional decisions. Right? Think before you act. I love it, man. Don't make that tweet when you're pissed off because you're going to regret it.
Yeah.
That's it, brother. Well, Michael, it was an absolute pleasure to have you on the show, man. Can't wait to read the book, Chasing the High. You have an incredible story, and you definitely brought tons of value to the show. So thank you so much. And, of course, I look forward to seeing what's next to come for you and staying connected. I'll hit you up next time I'm over in Cali, man. We'll Gotta go.
Oh yeah, I'll take care of you. I'll hook up. I'll hook you up, my man.
I'll bring you a bagel and a slice from over here. Michael, take care, brother. Be good.